will actually go through the same sorts of reactions in a different timescale. There are a number of standard reactions to change. The model we use is actually from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. This was originally launched to deal with reactions to death or terminal illness. But the same kind of steps actually happen when people deal with change as well. There are 7 steps in total. It starts with shock. What's actually happening? What's going on? Denial, which is, it can't be me, it can't be what's happening. Then we move on to anger and blame, which is actually kind of externally focusing on, you're doing this to me, this is not right. And at least it is noticeable. The next one, which is called bargaining or self-blame, is much more internal. And this can be much more damaging for individuals as they go through. The bargaining, as Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talked about, was kind of bargaining with God. If I do this, then this won't happen. So if I change my diet, then I won't die, kind of thing. And this in the work relationship is much more about, well, if I do something different, then they won't change this. If I do something different in my job, then this won't happen to my job. This then leads into depression and confusion, which is, where am I going, what's going wrong, why is it happening to me, and all those sorts of things. And this is often where people are their lowest. Moving out of this, the 6th step is acceptance, where people start to realise this is not personal, this is not an attack on them, but what actually happens is that this is how the organisation is working and there's some things out of it. And the positive step beyond this is then problem solving. How do I move on? Where can I go next? What can I do? Now the critical thing here is everybody goes through this curve, but different people will go through the curve at different points. So, any questions so far?
Andy, is it possible to actually get stuck in the curve?
Well, actually, yes, you can get stuck in this, and how you go through it will depend on what's going on. So, for example, if you weren't expecting this change, then shock is a great deal greater. And therefore the denial might also be greater because you just don't want this to happen, you don't believe it's happening to you. If there's a kind of culture that says we are going to do change and the change is around the corner, then the shock is reduced and there's less denial. The particular circular bit is actually when you go kind of bargaining and self-blame and into depression. And if people aren't listed out of this, then actually you can spiral down and be quite serious. So you can get stuck at different points, you can get stuck in a kind of circular loop. And what we really need here is management support. And management support is about moving people through this curve. So if we move the curve on and start to have a look at kind of what happens, what do I need about this? Perhaps to deal with the shock, what you really need is warning. You know, there is a change coming along, and you should be expecting those sorts of things. And it's almost about having that in place. If you don't have that, then people do react badly. So if I can give you an example, this actually is a real situation that happened to me, in that the change was launched at the end of year Christmas celebration. Basically it went along the lines of, this has been a wonderful year, you've done a wonderful job, by the way, we're going to shut your office.